You're watching Saturday Anime on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Hey now, this is Reverend Paul, and today we are going to talk about the latest installment of Legendary's MonsterVerse series, Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that every Friday I've been posting new fan art. I did fan art for the X-Men, I've done Dragon Ball fan art, and I even did some Godzilla vs. Kong fan art. So be sure to follow me on X or Blue Sky or Twitter or whatever social media you have. I'm probably on it, and follow me to check out the artwork I've been doing. So with that said, let's move on. Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire was released in March of 2024, and it is directed by Adam Wingard, who was also the director of the previous film. Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire continues the story from 2022's Godzilla vs. Kong. Kong is still hanging out in the Hollow Earth, exploring and fighting all these weird fucking monsters, and Godzilla is on the surface Earth, hanging out and also fighting weird fucking monsters. Although Kong is not having the greatest time in the Hollow Earth, he's got a really bad toothache and he feels kinda lonely because he appears to be the only giant ape down there. Rebecca Hall returns as Dr. Eileen Andrews, who is taking care of Gia, the Iwi native girl. And Gia, like Kong, feels like a fish out of water. She feels like she has nobody to relate to and she is looking for a place to belong. I should probably mention that this video is going to be very spoiler heavy, so if you do not want any spoilers, you should probably check out now. Now the story basically kicks off when Monarch gets a signal coming from the Hollow Earth. Dr. Andrews and Gia and that dude with the podcast and this dude Trapper who also works for Monarch, and this dude is just kind of like Deus Ex Machina. He just seemingly has access to like ridiculous technology. Now all of these people have to get their asses to the Hollow Earth to see what is going on. Meanwhile, Godzilla is going around and he is killing other titans and he's like sucking up all their energy and he's becoming like super uber Godzilla. And Kong, he's still hanging out on the Hollow Earth. He's killing monsters. Kong also ends up running into a young giant ape named Suko, who leads him to a place where there are others of Kong's species. So what we end up finding out is that there is this evil ape called the Scar King, and he has enslaved all the other giant apes like Kong. And he's also in control of this ice dragon called Shimo. And Shimo is pretty cool because Shimo is the dragon that started the Ice Age. And way back in the past, Godzilla's ancestors, they trapped the Scar King inside this space within the Hollow Earth. But now the Scar King is going to escape and he is going to return to the surface and finally take over. Now overall, I really enjoyed Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. It had all the craziness of like a late era Showa Godzilla movie, and it had that same kind of comic booky feel that you would see from the early 90s Heisei stuff. Adam Wingard said that he was mainly influenced by 1980s cartoons and toys, and that really comes through in this movie, especially when they give Kong that fucking bionic gauntlet. The movie doesn't really have a lot of plot and the characters don't really have a lot of characterization, but this is really a throwback to those 1970s Godzilla movies like Godzilla vs. Megalon, where it's just a ridiculous over-the-top spectacle. The fight scenes in this movie are so ridiculous. Kong takes the little ape Suko and he fucking swings him around like a weapon. And there's one part in this movie where all the monsters are fighting in zero gravity. It is one of the craziest things you'll see. I like the Hollow Earth as a location. It feels kind of like an updated version of Monster Island, but the downside to the Hollow Earth is you lose a lot of the scale with the monsters. At the end of the movie, when they have the final battle in Brazil, there you really get a sense for how big and grand these kaiju really are. I think that sense of scale really makes the last fight sequence in this movie the standout fight sequence. But I do have to say, I do think I like Godzilla vs. Kong better. Being that Godzilla vs. Kong felt more like a Godzilla movie, and Godzilla X Kong feels more like a Kong movie, and Godzilla's part feels more like an extended cameo. Now, on the one hand, I do like the fact that they are building up Kong's rogues gallery. Godzilla, like Batman, has a great cast of villains, and Godzilla with his foes have had some epic monster battles over the years. And really, the only person Kong really has to fight is like Mecha Kong. So I like the fact that we're building up the mythology of Kong Kong. We're giving him the Scar King. But it did feel like Godzilla didn't really get a lot to do, and I feel like I like giving Kong some extra characterization, but it shouldn't be at the detriment of Godzilla, especially when Godzilla's name is first in the title, goddammit. I do like that this movie presents Godzilla as the badass that he is. Godzilla is an unstoppable killing machine. He is destroying cities, other kaiju. He is unstoppable. I like this new Uber Godzilla design with these giant pink spikes. I like that it adds some color and some vibrancy to his design. And Godzilla's atomic breath in this movie is very different than the atomic breath in -1. Godzilla -1's atomic breath was like a nuclear bomb, and Godzilla's atomic breath in Godzilla X Kong is kind of like Cyclops' optic blast in X-Men 97. It's kind of like this unstoppable concussive force. It's cool, it's different from -1, and I think it adds to the comic book feel of the movie. Now, I like the concept of Shimo. I like the idea of this big evil ice dragon that's gonna go up and fight Godzilla. But I feel like the design of Shimo could have been a little bit more unique. It's a cool design, but it kind of reminds me of an old Todd McFarlane Dragons figure I have. Actually, I think the Todd McFarlane figure looks better. And when you compare Shimo to other Godzilla foes, the design is a little weak. I think the monsters in Godzilla films have some pretty awesome designs. Destroya has a great look. Gigan is also a very unique looking character. And as I said, while I like the concept of Shimo, I feel like she was kind of bland design-wise. I wish Legendary was a little bit more creative with the villains, because we are just doing the Marvel thing of like the Scar King is an evil Kong and Shimo is an evil Godzilla. Godzilla has fought a lot of evil Godzillas. You know, there's Space Godzilla, there's Mecha Godzilla. I guess Biollante is kind of a Godzilla. But Godzilla also fights monsters that are very un-Godzilla-like, like Hedorah or King Caesar. So I do like that they're introducing new characters. I just wish they would be a little bit more creative with the new characters they were introducing. I did like the fact that Mothra made an appearance in this movie, although I do feel like if they were going to bring Mothra back to the Monsterverse, they should have went with Mothra Leo. I think that makes the most sense, being that we saw a Mothra die. So if we're going to see another Mothra come back, it should be Rainbow Mothra with all the different forms and powers. Now, I think it's also worth talking about Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, as it compares to Godzilla -1. Now, Godzilla -1 is in the conversation for one of the best Godzilla movies ever made. And even if you take it out of the context of genre movies, Godzilla -1 is still a great movie about the horrors of war. Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire is just kind of big, dumb fun, and I love it for that, but we do have to talk about the fact Godzilla -1 is one of the best Godzilla movies ever made, and it was made for $12 million. Godzilla X Kong is big, dumb fun, and it was made for $150 million. What is that, like 12 times the budget of Godzilla -1? I like Godzilla X Kong. I don't know if stupid should cost that much. They probably could have cut down on the budget of this movie if they got rid of that whole fucking city of giant apes. You didn't need all those fucking giant apes. All you needed was Godzilla, Kong, Shimo, the Scar King, and then the little Suko monkey guy. With the exception of Destroy All Monsters, most Godzilla movies only seem to have like 2 or 3 other monsters in them. But I do like the fact that Legendary is carving out a lane for itself. Toho is doing very thoughtful art house Godzilla movies, and Legendary says we're just going to do crazy kaiju action. I think it's great that we have the best of both worlds. It's also worth mentioning that Godzilla -1 won an Oscar for special effects, which is well deserved. I love this tweet by this dude here. And what I really love about it too is the fact that, like, when I was a kid, the special effects in Godzilla movies were always made fun of. They were the butt of jokes. And now a Godzilla movie has won an award for visual effects. It's very cool to see that Godzilla is finally getting the respect he deserves. It's looking like we're going to be having a lot of new Godzilla movies, both from Toho and the Monsterverse. So this is a very exciting time to be a fan of Godzilla and Tokusatsu.